And good morning. Welcome to a Tadpoll for a Thursday morning. We have a busy one today. We're going to be talking about Phillips County Extension. Andrew Schremer's going to be here to talk about things, and new dad Cody's going to be with us. Cody Miller, I have to talk to him how that's going, if he's getting to sleep all night yet or how that works. We're going to be talking also with Sarah Rudd on The Wizard of Oz, their program coming up. Warren Dunlap has written a book, and I'm looking forward to that. He lives north, actually has a ranch north of Norton. He's going to come in and talk. We'll be discussing things with Morris Engel. The other night, the Phillips County Community Foundation got together and issued almost $50,000 in grants. We'll look at that a little bit. Plus, Phillips County Arts Council having a special program this Saturday night. The lady plays the piano while they show movies up on the screen, and that's going to be different. LD and Holthus will be stopping by to talk about pickleball. He likes that pickleball and how their DVD went on the sale they had on the home on the range. And Wes Hall is going to stop by to talk about the community picnic. So it's a busy morning. A lot of things going on in the summertime, and we look forward to talking with the different people this morning. And of course, we go and stop by and thank the sponsors to make it possible for us to do this every Thursday morning. And during the sports season, high school season, we have a lot of sports people come on, and this Saturday we're going to have a special thing. We're going to be talking about the timer, the gentleman, and we'll talk more about that later on in the program. So just a busy morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Congratulations. What's the name?
So Chisholm James Miller
Okay.
He's 4 weeks old today. So we're settling in. Big brothers are adjusting more so now than what they were when we first brought it home. But everybody's doing well.
All right, good. And today's your anniversary.
Today's our anniversary.
Be sure you mention
well.
that.
So
look at the camera.
So today is our 10-year anniversary. So if Rachel is listening, happy anniversary. And I don't know how he's put up with me for 10 years, but she has. So.
You said that, I didn't.
That's
okay,
right.
Okay,
That's
all right. Who wants to go first? Let's ladies first again. Okay, what's happening with the extension,
Well,
Anna?
I wrote a grant earlier this year and to the Tadpoll Foundation, and I received a grant to do what's called a story walk. And the story walk basically is it includes exercise, literacy, and family time all together, because you can take your kids, your grandkids, your neighbor kids. You don't even have to have kids. You can go watch and read the story books. And I find the Berenstain Bear books fascinating personally. I really like them. And we have little critter books, but they all have a special message. I brought a sample of what one looks like. This is a little critters book, but it is
Wow.
so.
I can I can read my first and just saving my money and things
This is
to help them with
right,
doing things. Well, that's
right.
great.
This is a financial one. It's on just saving my money, and that's what these look like when you go to. And I'll talk about the different places where we'll have these. But they have a message, and it's something too. The parents can say, well, what do you think he will do next?
Sure.
Is he going to spend his money? Or we have some, with manners. We have some nutrition ones. We just have a variety of them. But the Cole Foundation bought the books and the supplies to do these.
Okay.
And then I wrote a grant to the Dane G. Hansen Foundation to provide books that after they finish reading, they can go to their local library and pick up a free book of the book that they just read. So they can continue it at home. Of course, they can come back and read the book, but the books will be up. I'm planning on changing them out every 2 weeks. So they'll get a new book every 2 weeks to come back and walk the square here in Phillipsburg. And so it's...
Okay, so how does that work? I mean, where are the books? Are they in the front of the business, or are you have them inside? Are they open? Is it during?
They're on this courthouse square.
Okay.
Katie and I put them out yesterday.
Wow.
The first one, And it starts right across from Ace Hardware, that side of the courthouse, and it goes up and around. So you're not having to walk in the street. You can
Sure.
walk the sidewalk and read a book. And that one has about 19 pages.
Wow.
It gets you a little
And then-
exercise and a little story, a little message to give your kid, a little family time.
Wow,
So,
that's neat. And if rain, hopefully get the rain, that's protected from the
Right.
rain and everything. all
yes,
right, so-
everything. This is all
Wow.
on plastic. We've laminated with hard lamination, so the storybook should be fine. Wind, we're not sure about.
There's no wind in Kansas.
Not
so-
at all. So, yes, but we're trying to, we're planning on. Hopefully, the wind will not damage them.
They always told me there's no question about wind. The only question about wind is whether it's going to be out of the north or the south. That's about-
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's a neat idea. There's no charge. They can just walk
No.
around. And
Right.
how long will it take to go around?
Oh, it doesn't. It kind of depends on how much time you want to spend with each page.
Sure,
But we
yeah.
have 2 pages on each of the boards.
Okay.
So they can read, look at the pictures. If you have really young ones, they may not be really into
Sure,
the reading
sure,
part. But you can show the pictures.
Yeah.
And if you're an adult, there's a good message there for you too to read. So it just depends on how long you want to spend at each page.
I've got to mention, how fortunate we are in Phillips County to have the foundations that help out.
Oh, yes.
I mean, we are very fortunate.
Yeah.
I'll be talking about the Hanson. We gave away $50,000 in grants for that. It's cool.
Yes.
All those. It's great to have the help there.
Oh,
Okay. So and they're out now.
Well, I'm getting them out today. I just talked about the Phillipsburg one.
You're doing
We have
another
one-
count. That's
right,
great.
We have it
Yeah.
in the 6 towns in Phillips County. That's what I wrote for in the grant.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have them out at Logan, and that's on the Hanson Plaza.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of just goes around the square, but they have a sidewalk that goes around.
Right,
So that one's 16 pages long. And then at Logan, you can go into the Hanson Museum or the Logan Library and pick up a book.
Okay.
But one thing I must say about the books, they're not here yet.
Okay.
I've ordered them. They are processing
Sure.
them. You keep getting these
Sure.
emails. So, but I have not heard that they've shipped them or
Okay.
anything. So I'm hoping they'll be in next week. But that book that's out, you'll be able to get it. And since this is the first year, we don't know how many books people are going to get books, but we're asking per family, one per family. And then next year, if it goes well, I'll go ahead and write another grant to get more books and hopefully a
Sure.
bigger number of them. But we didn't want to overdo the first year and end up with
Sure.
50 books
Sure, right. Yeah,
sitting
that's
in
great.
the office. So I'd never get Cody out. He'd be reading those books all the time. No, I'm just kidding him. But
Yeah.
but that's Logan. And then at Prairie View, there's a park, I understand. I'm not real familiar with Prairie View, but I'm working with Gloria DeWitt, the librarian there. And she has an idea where she'd like to have them. And so we'll put them up in a park at Prairie View. Long Island, we're not exactly sure. Those may end up on the business windows because
Okay.
they don't really have an area that people just walk and do.
Right. Yeah.
Agra, we're going to put it around the walking trail at the lake, the
Oh,
new
hey,
Agra Lake.
that's a great idea.
And
Yeah.
so I think that will work
Oh,
good.
that's
And then they'll have to travel a little ways to go to the library to
Sure,
get
yeah,
their
yeah.
book. But and then at Kerwin they have this kind of, I call it the square out there in the
Right,
middle,
yeah.
and we're going to put them out there
Okay,
for
all right.
Kerwin. Now, if your library doesn't happen to be open or the Hanson Museum doesn't happen to be open, I do have little tickets that you can pick up and then take into the library later on.
Sure. Wow.
And that way, you'll still be able to get your book. If the library's open and you don't have a ticket, that's fine.
Sure.
You can walk in and
Yeah.
get it. But
Wow.
I see with the heat that's coming on, a lot of families coming out at
Sure.
night.
Yeah, that's good.
and doing it.
That's great. An opportunity. and also maybe get the younger ones interested in reading more, and that's very.
And that's what the Dane G. Hansen Foundation, their initiative this past year, and I think it's going to continue to be that, is literacy, is getting families to read, just not kids, but parents reading to their kids.
Sure, right.
And, over the summertime, this is a great indoor activity because it's sometimes it's too hot
Sure,
to
that's
even
right,
go
yeah.
swimming. So this is something to keep the families reading during the summertime all year long, really.
I'm a big proponent in reading to your kids because I think I mentioned this before. I think I read Tom Sawyer to him 10 times,
Oh,
And he said, "That's not the way." Once in a while, I'd change it up, I said,
Right.
"That's not the way it goes, Dad."
Exactly.
They know.
They know.
Oh, yeah.
And after about the third time, they know
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And Huckleberry Finn. It's one of the best times when the family can get together is to read because they listen. Maybe
Yes.
sometimes they'll drop off to sleep, but okay. So
Yes.
okay,
My
what?
grandkids love to read.
Yeah, that's great. It's important. I lived in Garden City, and I had a library was right across this alley from where I lived. So in the morning, I'd go to school. I'd drop off on the way home from school. I'd stop in and check out 3 books that night and read them, and then the next morning I'd drop in on the way the next day. Then I think I read every book in the library that I was capable of reading.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anything else, Anna?
No, the only thing I wanted to show this will be up at the beginning of each of the story walks. So if you just see these signs kind of blowing in the wind around, look for this. This is where the storybook will start.
Okay.
Now, some of the places at the Hanson Plaza, we started it on the north side. Here we started it on the north side, so I'm not exactly sure where it'll be in the other towns.
Okay,
but
sure.
look for this, and that's where it will actually start.
Okay. All right. That's a great idea.
How many
And-
other counties? I know that there's other counties and districts that do this. But,
It's really starting to take off with the extension. I know of out in this area 5 other places that have them, and there's a lot of libraries that also have them that they rotate around, but they're not really getting started. I mean, they're kind of getting started with it too. It actually came from a lady in Vermont, and
Okay.
she's the one that developed this. Norton County Library has a really big proponent of the story walk, and then Extension has, I think there's about 5, 6 of us now that have it.
All right, very good. That's good. Take advantage of this. I'm not even going around and read something.
Yes, that's,
Look, you're gonna give me a free book. Okay. So, Scotty, you're joining us this morning? What's on the agenda for you?
So this week and here the last couple of weeks, I've had all kinds of questions on little barley, Tad, and I was going to bring a plant of what that is, but basically, as you go by in your yard and you see a little plant that earlier on it was nice and beautiful green,
Yeah.
now it has a seed head on it. As it's turning hot, it's starting to get yellow or brown and it's starting to die, go to seed, get in your socks, all those things. It's just a pain, unfortunately, but it's called little barley.
It's not barley like you do harvest barley.
Correct. Yeah,
but
it
it's
is.
not that.
It's not
you don't
that.
harvest
No,
that, right?
Unfortunately.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
and this is a problem we've had for the last few years, and it just seems to have blown up here recently. But I've had so many questions on what it is, how to get rid of it. So to start with, it's a winter annual, so it's very similar to wheat. It comes up in the fall and goes through the winter, and then in the spring it greens back up, starts to grow, puts on a seed head. Early on, you may think that it looks like a miniature foxtail, and now where it's starting to get hotter, it's kind of like wheat. It's reached the end of its life cycle. It's trying to reproduce, put out seeds, and it's just a real pain, unfortunately. So for control on it, right now, a lot of people are asking, well, what can I spray it with now? Save your money. It's already gone to seed. It's basically dying now.
Yeah.
About the only way, there's two ways to control it. First of all, is with a pre-emergence in the fall. So end of August, first part of September, before that plant comes up, you can use a product with the active ingredient, or Rislin is the active ingredient. There's some trade names, Surflawn, Weed Impede 2. Those are some things that you can put down and water in, and hopefully that will prevent that from coming up. Another option, if you have warm season grasses such as buffalo grass, Bermuda, etc., in early February, March, before the buffalo grass or warm season grasses start to grow, that plant is actively growing. On a day that it's 50 degrees or more, you can go out with Roundup and spray that. Now you're going to want to make sure your other grasses are still dormant, or you're going to have a bigger problem.
Yeah.
But you can spray those, and hopefully that will. Those are the two options. You know, there's people right now that are hand picking, trying to just keep those seeds from getting on the soil to go for next year. But it's a pain. You know, just stick with it. If you get a nice thick yard, hopefully that will choke that out. But I have had so many questions on little barley. I thought I better come talk about it.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
So.
Plus the fact they're going to seed, that's even more of a problem, isn't
Right,
then? So,
right.
so that's what the pre-emergence is for.
Correct.
Then,
Yes. Yeah. So basically, and again, you don't do that till this fall.
Sure,
So
right, yeah.
August, September
Okay,
time
wow.
frame. So that's the one thing I was wanting to touch on. And then this year, as Anna can say, is I have had so many calls on herbicide complaints, whether it particularly in the town setting, etc.
Sure,
there.
yeah.
And as a matter of fact, I know the day we got home from the hospital with Chisholm, I went out to our garden and looked at the tomato plants, and sure as heck, 3 of my plants had been hit with herbicide.
Right.
So, these products that you're using, 2,4-D, dicamba, they're great products for the broadleaves, but keep in mind those things can drift up to a half mile or farther depending on the day, and it's very frustrating. I'll be driving down the street and you'll see somebody out there, the wind's blowing 20 miles an hour and they're spraying the yard. So, it may, even though you don't have a garden out, your neighbor may, or the person 4 houses down certainly may. And tomato plants, grapes, cotton, they can just sniff out 2,4-D. So, that, please keep that in mind, and I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention.
Be a good neighbor, so.
Correct.
I was somewhere the other day, and it was windy, and I saw this airplane spraying out on the field. Does that drift too, or can that hurt other crops?
Yeah, depending on what product they're
Sure,
using,
yeah, right, yeah.
depending on what product it is, and then which way the wind is out of. In the rural setting,
Sure.
Sometimes you have to have a wind away from a sensitive
Sure,
crop
right,
for
yeah,
it.
yeah,
So,
okay.
and unfortunately, this year the wind and today through the next 4 days, I think the wind's supposed to really blow. So
Yeah.
it's just frustrating there, unfortunately.
Sure, right, well,
but
I've got to ask you, what's the wheat harvest?
So
like?
yeah, so we had I believe it was on the 31st of May.
Yeah.
We had our wheat plot tours, and little history there. We had our 3 specialists that were here. Lucas Hagues, our Northwest area agronomist. We had Eric DeWolf, who's our extension plant pathologist, and then Romulo Lalato. He's the new Jim Schroyer, is what I say.
Okay,
So
sure.
Jim Schroyer
I know
was with us for
Jimmy,
many years,
yeah.
and still stay in touch with him. So they came out and they looked at our Phillips County plot that was up on the what road is it? Up at the port of entry, but Brock, Kinney, and Leighton Johnson is Leighton's 4-H project. So we're carrying on that tradition from what the M's
Sure.
and Stills, and now the Johnson.
Sure.
So it's great there, but. What I'm getting at is they looked at our wheat, and when they first got there, a lot of our producers are thinking, oh, it doesn't look the greatest. We're kind of sorry in how it looks. But from across the state, they were very satisfied with the way our wheat looked. So, in certain areas of the state, it's pretty bad. And I know as harvest is going on, but, we got that rain. Things really perked up from
Did that
there.
help? Someone told me it came too late to fill it out.
A couple weeks earlier would have been tremendous, but it it was sure.
Sure. Well, you don't.
Yeah, it changed a lot of people's attitudes. So, it's not, I don't think, going to be a bumper crop, but disease-wise, we didn't have the diseases this year.
Really?
The
Okay,
rust,
that's-
stripe rust, leaf rust, we didn't have those. Like what we have had, you have to have moisture to have those.
Sure.
So,
See, that's
so that was kind
So
of.
it's a two-edged sword.
It
Everything
is,
in it.
it
Everything.
is.
If you don't have, if you have a drought, it's good in some ways, but then if you have a lot of rain, it's bad in the other ways.
Right,
So.
right, yeah. Danged if you do, danged if you don't. So, and then also last year we had wheat streak mosaic so bad
Right,
throughout
yeah.
the state, and this year we didn't have that near as bad. That's transmitted by volunteer wheat. The wheat curl mite
Sure,
is a vector for that. So, all in all, the wheat looks much better than it did.
Good.
There's still some that's a little poorer, but at least the price is ratcheting up a little bit.
Yeah,
So we can only hope that it continues that. But I think the next 4 days it's gonna
dry
really,
things down to get the wheat ready.
Yeah, especially down in the southern part of the district, Rooks County. I think they're further along than we are, and then this next 4 days, being up in the hundreds, I think that's gonna really rapidly progress it.
1 year, didn't we have it early June
So
or
we
something,
did.
or late
The
May?
1 year, we were cutting wheat the end of May,
Yeah.
and that was. I talked to producers, and they said, I've got to go do this because I've never cut wheat the end of May.
Sure.
So it was just
But and then
interesting.
maybe it's when they planted. But growing up, it was always July. 4th of July was always a
Right.
big time.
Yeah, into June, first
Sure,
part of
yeah,
July,
yeah. So
usually
things
rule of thumb.
I don't care what they say. The climate is changing.
Yeah, and the years, some years when we have a cool, wet spring,
yeah.
that kind of delays,
Sure.
and that helps out the wheat plant. Wheat's a cool season crop, so moisture heat's one of its biggest enemies, unfortunately. So hopefully it'll be a much better crop than what we first intentionally thought, but still I think we've got a ways to go, unfortunately.
All right. I want to ask. Where did the name Chisholm?
Where did Chisholm come from?
Yeah.
So, we had, so you got to remember, we go back, and our first sonogram, we thought we were having a girl.
Yeah,
so
right, yeah.
that was something else. And we went back for the 4D, and that was the fun
Yeah.
deal there. And we almost left thinking it was going to be a girl, and they brought another technician in
Yeah.
and said, "This is not a girl." And
Okay.
so we had these girl names, and then we had
boy.
we picked out these other. But Rachel and I had a list of
Sure,
names,
yeah.
and this is one. There's a young man from western Kansas that I've grew up showing Gelby cattle, and his name was Chisholm. He's a
Well,
great
it had
kid.
to have something to do with agriculture.
Right,
I think,
so we've got
That's great.
Cooper, Casey, and Chisholm. So no, we'll take all three.
Okay,
of them for
you
sure.
get two more, and you have a basketball
I
team.
think that we went from man to man to zone, and I think 3 is just enough. So.
All right, thanks for coming in. I hope the harvest goes well. We'll have you on again here.
Sounds good.
Thank you,
Ted.
Anna. That's a great idea. I'm really proud we got something like that done. All right, do we have Sarah out there? Okay, Sarah Rudd's going to be with us next year. Reminder that the Tadpoll brought to you by the First National Bank and Trust, proudly supporting Panther Athletics. From our sales floor to your delivery door, come see Jim and Terry at All of Bowie Furniture and Appliance, where they provide gracious living for less. They had a birthday. I think, didn't the furniture have a birthday? I think they had a birthday. Professional Family Eye Care. See Dr. Juderman for all of your eye care needs. Coombs Trucking. You Call, We Haul. Weinman Firestone. Tire Sales and Service. Backing the youth of Phillips County. And Biggs Insurance for all of your auto, home, business, and farm insurance needs. Good morning, Sarah. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
All right. My question is, how's the Wizard going?
I think it's going great.
Okay.
We have a cast of about 50.
Wow.
And they have been working hard learning all of the music. Kathy Whitney has been so gracious to be our music director this year. So she was teaching everyone all of these songs. Many of them are unfamiliar to so many of our cast. And Ashlyn Kennedy and Annette Kennedy have been working hard to teach them choreography. So we're really challenging our cast.
Yeah.
Because some of our younger cast members do take some dance and that kind of thing, but there are a lot of songs in this show that have some, that have some choreography and quite a bit of it. So they're working hard to, to stretch themselves, and not to mention that we have some not so young cast members that are, my age or a little older that that maybe don't do dance all the time.
Sure,
and
right.
so learning some of that choreography is definitely stretching them, but they're doing a great job. And they look great, and their work ethic is amazing. So it's going to be a good show. And we're feverishly working on getting costumes made and building set and getting everything ready for for a show that will happen here in less than 5 weeks.
Wow, and you had to do some changes on some of your helpers who were involved in other things, didn't you? So that
Right. So in years past, I've had almost the same team for for a couple of shows now, and it gets to work out really nicely where you know each other and you know how to communicate, and then we had some changes in team members, and so it was a little bit scary because you don't know what to expect, and you're not sure how things are going to work, but it's coming together beautifully.
Wow.
I've been really impressed with with just all of the new people who are interested in being a part of community theater and using the skills that they have to really make it wonderful. And it's just amazing, all of these people that that I probably would not cross paths with, in everyday life, that I get to work with them, in community theater, and you make some new friends and build some new relationships. So it's been fun.
Probably the only choreography I could do would be the soldiers marching, or that's, I don't know why that sticks in my mind about it. You're going to have all that.
Yeah.
Just wow.
Yep.
Has everyone watched the movie, even the young ones?
I'm not sure that everyone has watched the movie.
And that could be either good or bad, I guess.
Right. I think it's a matter of perspective.
Sure, right.
Because there are some things that will be in the stage production that are not in the movie.
No.
So even if they do see the movie, there are scenes like the jitterbug, for example,
Yeah.
that's not in the movie.
Yeah.
And so and there are some portions of the music that are different from the movie.
Well, I saw a wizard in Junction City, and in the movie, the wizard is the guy who opens at the wizard, at the door at the Oz, and he's the same guy. And they were two different people.
Sure.
And
it's going to be two different people for us too.
So
the guard and the wizard are two different
the
people.
guard, the guard, and down there they had a dog. They didn't have a trained dog.
We actually are going to have a dog.
You are?
We
a live dog?
We did find a live dog.
That's going to do what you want it to do?
Well, she's going to do what she wants to do, and hopefully it will be close to what we want her to do.
Pull the curtain back and don't pay any attention to the man around the curtain.
We'll see if all of those things happen.
Fine.
But even if she doesn't do everything we want her to do, she is going to be an adorable dog on stage.
That's going to be worth the price of admission there,
you
just
go.
to see how that goes, to see how that goes. And you may have sold. Who's Dorothy?
Dorothy is Sydney Mitchell.
Okay, and Aunt Em.
Aunt Em and Glenda is Andrea Cassie.
Okay, and the Tin Man.
The Tin Man is Quinn Crable.
Okay, and the Scarecrow.
The Scarecrow is Jordan Ford.
And the Lion.
And the Lion is Brian Rudd.
Okay, wow, a lot of Munchkins. Do you have some of the younger ones
do,
playing the Munchkins?
We have some kids as young as 3.
Wow.
Oh. Yep, and they're so cute.
That's going to be great.
And I mean, just some little dancers, and here again, we've got dancers that are playing cyclones that are part of our tornado scene.
Wow.
We have dancers who will be poppies in the poppy field.
Yeah.
And we have some little snowflakes that will dance around when
to get rid of the poppies,
to override the magic.
Sure, right. Yeah.
And we have some really cool stage features that we're building right now. We have this really fantastic design team that we managed to, part of our stage is going to move under the feet of our actors. So I won't give you any more information than that,
Okay,
but you'll
all
have to
right.
come and see the
Okay,
show. But
all
part of
right,
our
sure.
stage will move under the feet of the actors.
Wow,
And if
okay.
you want to see a sneak peek, you'll have to go to our Facebook page, the Theater Arts Council Facebook page, and check it out.
Are you spending about every day, every night there now? Or
I'm not there on Sundays and
Oh,
Wednesdays.
sure, okay. Oh, well, sort of thing. And and changing the subject a little, I can't wait for The Wizard. That's my top 5 movies. Casablanca, The
Sure.
Wizard, and a couple others are my great favorite movies. Of course, they go way back, see. I'm an old crew. But anyway, wasn't that Lovewell thing great last week?
It was amazing.
And how those kids sang
Yeah.
and
Oh
did
my
what
goodness.
they did. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I think
And I mean, and I kind of talked to Jim, and who was kind of around
Sure, right,
during
right.
the day while they were working on that. And man, they were engaged, and they were able to just take their creativity and turn it into something
Yeah.
that turned out to be really fantastic.
It was
and
really-
it was a well-written story.
yeah.
And I mean, there were some twists and turns in there that were unexpected,
Sure,
and there was
yeah.
some amazing music. I mean, oh my goodness, the talent in those kids, and the Lovewell staff. I mean, for being able to
Yeah.
to harness that talent and pull it out of
in
them.
1
And,
week.
yeah,
Not a week,
yeah.
5 days.
Well, I would even say 3 days, because Monday they did all of their getting to know you kind of
Really?
things.
Okay.
And then they wrote the whole production Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Wow.
They finalized it Thursday,
Yeah.
and then they just did rehearsal
Yeah.
on Friday to get ready. And if you missed the performance at the Huck Boyd, man, you really missed a great
really
show.
was.
Now the good news is you can go to My Phillips County Online and see the
Right,
video,
yeah.
which is a fantastic feature, but it's not nearly as good as
Yeah,
being there
no,
live.
you have to be there. And
Yeah.
it's always you go see you can watch anything on TV, but
Sure,
but
sure,
being
but it's
there
not
is a
like
lot
being
better,
there, yeah.
And it's great how each place they have to come up with a new. And what I really like, their opening night and closing night the same
Right,
night.
right.
Really good. And it started in Salina. I didn't realize that the idea came from Salina, and I didn't know that.
I didn't realize that
Yeah,
either.
Gilchrist was that her name? Yeah, it started in Salina and they moved. And they're going to Sweden, I think. But no,
Yep.
both of them. I interviewed both of them last Thursday. They're very good interviews. The kids were all good.
Yeah.
Good stage presence and everything. It's really good. I could see them do. I wish they do that every year here because
Yeah. Oh, I would love that too. I would love it if they would do
Is
that
that
every
kind
year.
of some of that kind of spill over into what you were doing for the
I think
Wizard?
so.
You think?
Now, 3 of the students who participated in the Lovewell Institute event are in
Okay,
The Wizard of Oz.
okay.
I mean, that's 30%. So,
And there were others out of town, Smith Center and
Right.
Palco and Norton. I think it was Norton. There one Norton, or Osborne. Osborne
Yeah,
was there.
Hill
So
City
that
and
was and I was surprised. Not surprised. I was happy. It could have been full, but there was a nice crowd there watching that.
Yep,
I know there were
yep.
a lot of aunts and uncles and grandmas and parents and stuff, but it was very good.
But I love the variety of music in the students too, and their lyrics they weren't cheesy.
No.
They weren't just kind of cheap and shallow. I mean, they wrote some really
They did.
meaningful, music and kind of a variety of spectrums from interest in, what does it mean to be famous and, and all of those things, but also in some of the songs where they talked about, it's okay to
Yeah,
want to stay
right.
in your small
Sure.
town. It's okay to want to build a life
Right,
in rural America. And I thought, that's really fascinating to hear come out of the mouths of,
Sure.
some of those teenagers. And it's encouraging, right? Because,
Sure,
we look
right.
at our lives here in Phillipsburg, Kansas, and we think we've got it pretty
Right,
good.
Yeah, very good.
So it's
Well,
nice to see that, some of those kids are,
okay,
writing stage
as we
shows.
get closer to that time, can you bring some of your casts on? And,
Absolutely.
Did I ask you who the Wizard was? Did I ask you?
Dave Jerby.
Okay. And the guard?
The guard is Ben Benight.
Okay, all right. And challenges, I know, maybe a little bit on the set. I know you aren't going to have Didn't come in slide
right,
down.
Right. Yeah, we don't have a fly system. I mean, there are a lot of shows that we would do in that theater if we had a fly system.
Yeah.
And Glenda's not going to come down in a bubble. And we have joked about some major pyrotechnics, but I think probably Jim and Paula wouldn't really appreciate that very much. So we'll avoid avoid any major fires in it would be really cool.
Okay.
But I think that we might only get to do it one night if we did it. So we'll just avoid it, I think.
Okay, fine. Thank you. It sounds like things are going well. Then whenever you want to come back, you want to come on next week or 2 weeks or?
Sure. Well, how about if we shoot for 2 weeks?
Okay, well, I'll see you in 2 weeks, and then maybe bring some of the people on.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, all right, fine. Thank you.
Thanks, Ted.
Big undertaking there, really. Can't wait for that to get going here. Okay, we're going to also talk about I think we have next Warren Dunlap to talk about a book he wrote. Is Warren the one out there? Yeah, he sure is. Come on back, Warren. A reminder that the Tadpoll brought to you by all your friends at the Farmers State Bank, Phillipsburg. Babes Miller, it's not what you make, but what you keep. Mid-America Real Estate, providing the best homes in the area for over 40 years. Blossoms and Butterflies, making beautiful flowers a part of your life. Sign Solutions, your one-stop sign shop, and so much more. Madison Motors in business 70 years, and Rogers Associates, your local trusted choice agency. I've been looking forward to this next guest ever since I heard that he'd written a book, and I've talked to him by phone several times, and he said he'd only made it because he still does chores out north of Norton, right, Warren?
Yes, sir.
Glad to know you, sir, and let's talk a little bit about your background and then IOU Ranch. Okay, are you a native Kansan, or you always from Nebraska? Or?
Well, no, sir. I'm kind of Rolling Stone. I've been, like the fellow I was talking to, he said he's here in town for 30 years, and I told him, I said, I don't think I ever been anywhere for 30
Really?
years. So I've been lots of places. I was born in Sioux City, Iowa.
Okay.
And then I kind of got transported to different places.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother raised me.
Wow.
And then by 15, I was on my own and just.
Really? Where was that at? Were you in a rural area or a city area when you were 15 and on your own?
It was a smaller town, maybe
Wow.
5,000 people or so.
Phew.
But it was okay.
Wow.
And I just had lots of experiences, and I don't regret it. Some things I'll say I did that I regret, but right now I see that it's all them experiences that I had that give me fodder for writing
What you
material.
do, sure.
And I made it out west in 65 for permanency, and the various states. So, but my home state would be considered Colorado.
Okay.
Because I lived there the longest. Wow. I honestly don't know how many years that was, but a long time. Again, just I was privileged to travel through probably most of the western states.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it always in agriculture you were bit, or did you all kinds of things? Did you have
I did lots of things, but primarily I interfaced, or talked with, had to deal with farmers and ranchers.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoyed that. Sometimes there was some government officials, and that's okay. I got along with them okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, it was just everything I put together. That's kind of things I've done, people I've met, experiences that they've had that they've told me.
Mm-hmm.
And the first book I wrote was called Chugwater Cowboy and the Cheyenne Cuties. And it's a historical fiction.
Okay.
It takes place in Wyoming, and the people who actually I wrote about in there really did the jobs I wrote about, but I made up a couple characters.
Oh, sure.
And it was a kind of a little short book, and somewhat of a little bit of family ties in there, because my grandma was from lived up in Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
This book, IOU Ranch.
Is that your second book then?
This is my second
Okay.
book. The IOU Ranch has Kansas ties. The man who did the cover for this book is out of Hoxie,
Oh, okay.
the man I dedicated this book to, who encouraged me. He had read my first one. He encouraged me. I said I was thinking about doing this one, and he encouraged me to keep writing. He is from Wallace, Kansas.
Sharon Springs, out that area?
Yes, sir. And he's an old cowboy rodeo man.
Yeah.
And he passed away, but he got to read the rough draft of this first, and I was very pleased with that, and I dedicated the book to him. So Kansas ties are here, and what I try to do when I write, and I call it, they're westerns, but to anybody who would like a adventure book, mystery, a little bit of romance. I mean, cowboy.
You gotta have that.
Yeah. So that's all there, and the difference between this and any other western is I took all the rough out. This book you can read to your kids, and I used to do that to my kids, and they liked that, and I thought, it's a good way for a parent or parents to just read to their kids a chapter or a few pages, and then they get involved in a story, and they got something to look forward to do with their folks instead of those little games.
Western wasn't all just sitting around the campfire, was it?
No, sir. No, sir.
A lot of other things going on. And where'd the idea from this come from? Did it just through the years you've picked up different things, or the premise of it is I take it's a fiction. Is it a fiction?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The premise, I was in Utah, and the premise came from something that I come across in Utah, and I called a person who wrote the article in the newspaper, and then he gave me the rancher's number, and I called the rancher.
Sure.
So I thought, well, that's kind of cool. He had put an ad, this rancher had put an ad in the newspaper, and he got people to come out. They would pay him to come out and do work.
Really?
Yeah.
To work on it, get that experience.
Yeah. So I said, what are you doing? What do you? They're paying you to do what? He picks fence and pick up rocks. And I thought, wow, this is a pretty good deal. So anyway, the premise here is this is a young writer who sees these ads in newspapers back east, and his editor thinks they're phony ads.
Okay.
So he wants this young guy to go there. So he does, but what he finds out is in order to get on the ranch, let's say he embellished his experiences and what he knew. Well, they hired him on, and what he found out, and they didn't come out and expose him. They let him play out his hand. He was exposed as a fraud. But in this process, he understands what these folks do and how their lives live. And it's not just go to work and come home and relax and sit around a campfire, as you say. So there's Mr. Anderson, who I dedicated this book. He said to me, when I first read this, I wondered where you were going. But then I realized we all had to start at the bottom.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's kind of what this guy did. Okay. But he learned some life lessons. And so it's about him, but it's about the people he worked for and interfaced with and how they think. What I try to do with westerns I write, I admire cowboys. I don't call myself a cowboy, I call myself a ranch hand. My cowboy friends, I admire, and I need to be true to what they do for a living. This isn't something that, I can, this sounds good, this sounds good. No, it's how they do their work. So this is very authentic. You will understand and see how this works and how throughout the season, what they do and various things. Okay. So the setting is in southern Colorado, northern New Mexico, kind of where I did some cowboying.
Trinidad area, somewhere down
Yeah.
La Junta, down on that.
It's very authentic, and I don't know, maybe some of the listeners here, some of these folks might know him, but R.W. Hampton is a pretty well-known cowboy singer, entertainer, and he was kind enough to write a foreword for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And he and I were talking a little about it, and he told me, he said, when I first looked at it, he said, you had hooked me. And then when he was on a tour in California, and his wife read to me what he wrote in here, what I put in here.
Wow. Yeah.
And I was just speechless, because it's so nice, but it really does describe it. I try to bring you in. I talk about things the cowboys eat, and they don't all sit around the campfire. I mean, when they're at the campfire, they're going to cook a meal, or very seldom do they just sit around and sing songs.
Sure. You know. Yeah.
But it's a gathering, it's a meeting place, and a lot of the cowboys call it the Liar's Fire. And because tales are told.
Sure. Oh yeah. Well, and I think the movies in the 40s particularly really, they always had the cattle. They always were around the campfire. The thunderstorm came up, and the cattle stampeded, and they had to get them all back. I mean, that was a standard fare, the Sons of the Pioneers and all that kind.
That's right.
I think that's where everyone got that idea that all they do is ride all day and then sit by the campfire. But there's a lot of other things going on,
Yeah.
And so where do you ranch now? Where's your ranch?
It's just southwest of Henley, Nebraska. It's
Okay.
just north of Norton.
Norton. Okay.
And so I'm kind of local guy. I get down into Norton and Oberlin, and sometimes I drift this far and go down and see my friends in Lenora or Hoxie, and I worked on a few of their ranches, and
Wow.
one guy's still he retired, and the other guy's still on his ranch, and so I like I get a real kick out of people when I tell them, I did some cowboying over in Kansas, and he said, that's flatland.
Yeah,
And I said, you ain't been to Kansas, have you?
No.
You've been on the interstate.
Yeah, that's the problem. They go, but up in here, you can. It's and up in southern Nebraska too. I know. I called Warren several weeks ago to see if he could come on, and he said, "Well, you're doing your chores. What time do you get up in the morning?"
4:30.
4:30, and I used to do that when I was on the radio, and you said, "Well, I tried to make it by 9:30." I said, "Well, that's great." Now, are you having an autograph session or something? What are you doing with your book?
Yes, sir. Tad, I'm over at the bakery. I'll be there at noon today at 11:30 to 1:30, and if you can't make that, I'm coming back for the supper time, and as hot as it's going to get, load the family up, come to town, and Linda will cook some victuals for you, and then I'll be there from 4:30 to 6:30, and maybe a little later if there's other folks.
Yeah, sometimes they have meatballs on Thursday night, and other times they have fried chicken. I don't know but their meatballs are great. And,
good.
and of course, we do a Saturday morning show during our sports season all year. And in fact, Linda was the one that contacted and said we were going to be here. The ranch is at the IOU ranch. Is that?
Yes, sir.
And you got the name because I owe you to pay there. I pay. Is that where that came?
Yeah, it actually. I didn't even come up with this title until I got done. One of the main characters, that's his initial,
Okay.
I.O.
Oh, okay.
And so on the head gate was the big brand mark,
Sure.
I.O. So this young fella, it's kind of about him and what he experienced. Well, he owed them, so it's I.O.U.
Okay, sure.
And
Okay, yeah.
it really, as I said before, there's life lessons that I think we all learn through life, and it's not always, just present yourself honestly as you are, and people, will appreciate that. You don't have to make up you know, because you'll get found out.
Sure.
I mean,
Sure.
I always say you don't want to have your pants pulled down in public because, you know, that's not very fun.
Yeah.
And, but I think I try to get a little life lessons in here. And again, I had a brother-in-law, and he and his family read it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I kept
Sure.
wondering. I never heard back. Well, what they would do, when they drove together in a car, one of them would read while they're driving along.
Sure. Okay.
Well, of course, you don't do that all day long,
Yeah,
but that's how they got through the
All
book.
right.
And when they
Wow.
got done, they said, "Wow, that's a great story." It took them about a year, but who
Wow,
cares?
that's
I mean,
great.
That's good.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. You know, saying is, I a lot of times give my granddad drove cattle up from Texas.
Oh,
He was in the last Indian raid at Oberlin,
oh wow.
and he's written about that. It's not a book, but he wrote, and it's in the museum over at Oberlin. But he was in on that, and the Indians took his clothes, and
You're the kind of fellow that I like to find and sit down and visit with. And if you got a minute sometime,
Okay,
I'd
yeah,
love to do
that'd be
that.
yeah.
Because this is where I find things, and
Yeah.
this is where some of these things come from. I have met some of the most interesting old cowboys
Yeah.
in this state.
Yeah.
I met a man, he's no longer living, but he's a great man. He's an old cowboy. He made movies with Gene Autry.
Wow. Yeah.
And I said to him, my cowboy friend, he cowboyed for him, and he didn't know much about him. He didn't know that.
Yeah.
And he and I were talking one day, and he said, well, let's go see him at his ranch. So I dialed him up, and I said, JW, can we come out? Sure. So we loaded up, and it was from Colorado
Sure.
to where he lived. It was a drive. So we get there, and we were both writing down questions to ask this man, and I must have had 12 or 15. So I get through my list, and it's just like, these old cowboys, and you'll know this from my grandfather, they don't volunteer much. You got to get the right nerve before they'll talk. So I couldn't get through anything. My friend asked him some questions, and I said, JW, did your granddad ever tell you any stories? And I'm thinking, this is where he's going to tell me something.
Yeah.
I didn't know my granddad came the answer.
Yeah.
And I said, well, did your dad ever tell you any stories? Because his dad came out in a covered wagon, and they timber steaded in this land. And a lot of folks don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Not Kansas, but other
sure.
folks. So he said, yeah, my dad told me stories. And he pauses, and we're kind of sitting there. And he said, my dad shook hands with Abraham Lincoln before he was president.
Really?
And this is in the year 2000. My friend and I are going like this. We're looking back and forth at each other. And I have to have pen and paper to figure math out.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out, wait a minute, this is year 2000. Lincoln died in 61 in the 1800s. Wait a minute. So when we got out of there, we were just dumbfounded. And the only question I could come back with was, JW, how old was your dad when you were born? He said 65.
Gee.
And so we're still kind of dumbfounded.
Sure, yeah.
So we searched the history books, and Lincoln was in, I can't think of the name of the town in eastern Kansas. He was a senator. He came back to see if he could get support from the state.
Of course, then Kansas was a
territory.
free state.
Yeah,
But was a territory then, yeah.
He said, I wanted you to see if he could get support from anybody there.
Yeah.
But he wasn't the president then.
Yeah.
And that's when he came up and shook his hand.
Wow.
And I just, that old guy, he told me lots of things, and that's just like your grandfather. I've like I said, I've come across a few of them old timers, and to me, they're gems.
Yeah.
And if you can sit down with them and spend some time talking with them, they'll tell you tales.
He dictated his story. I've got all that, and I took it over to Oberlin, and he ended up in Hill City. The lady he married was from Indiana. She was a pianist, and they brought a piano from Indiana to Waukene, put it in the buckboard, and took it to Hill City, one of the first pianos in Hill City.
Wow.
Of course, he played the piano, and I've got some stories of that.
That is really great. Yeah, it's they're there, and when those stories are never pulled out, that's history gone and
Sure,
forgotten.
yeah, I know that's a problem. That a lot of things aren't written down, and to the family particularly, that they don't know what happened.
Right.
And I found out through genealogy that my great granddad is buried in Alma, and I had no idea that he was buried. I don't have any idea how he got there or anything, but it's there on my dad's side. It's amazing.
Yep.
Well, okay. So, and you're going to be autographing the books
Yes,
there
sir.
at the next door.
Yes, sir.
At the bakery from when?
This noon from 11:30 to 1:30,
Okay.
and then I come back this evening from 4:30 to
Okay.
6:30, or I'll stay a little later if there's still folks.
I would recommend you stop in and see Warren, and I've got to leave soon as it's over. I won't get a chance to talk. I would like to talk to you though. I have to go to Topeka
Oh,
as soon as I get through with the show here because Gary Musselman's having and he's head of the Association of High School Sports.
Sure.
He's retiring. I'm going down to his retirement thing. So, but yeah, I'd like to. I'd be glad to show you what he's written and everything. And
okay, yeah.
they even show he's even got a receipt showing in there that the federal government paid him $64 to buy clothes after the Indians took all this.
Really?
They felt responsible since the Indians had left the reservation.
Sure.
They're responsible for anything he had, and it's got his name in there and I think it was $64 clothes.
That's great.
Yeah.
Ted,
Nice thing.
thank
Yes,
you
sir.
so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you for coming on.
Yes, sir.
Great.
Appreciate it.
And be sure you go in the bakery. Talk to Warren. Interesting. All right. Also, the Phillips County Health System is making it possible for us to do the Tadpoll. Olive Bowie Memorial Chapel. Stephen E. Rush, your State Farm agent. Sonic Drive-In. Like us on Facebook to see our Sonic deals. Phillipsburg Chamber and Main Street, where the roads are paved with opportunity. Farmers and Ranchers Outlet and J&R Hivac are there. Well, we're a little late, but we've got you on there.
Oh, I just appreciate the chance to get some word out on some things.
Yeah, okay. You left your cowboy hat at home?
I did.
Okay. All right.
It used to fit, but since I lost my hair, it slips down.
Okay, let's first talk about Saturday night. This is going to be
Okay.
interesting. This is
Yeah.
the Phillips County Arts Council.
Right, Phillips County Arts Council. We are hosting Alina Kuryeva, who's a Russian-trained pianist, and she's coming to the Huck Boyd Center Saturday at 7 o'clock. And she takes the classical music that has become famous as part of a movie score.
Okay.
And so she'll be presenting that. Now, originally she was going to show clips of films that
Well, that's what I
were
thought.
taken from,
Yeah.
but there were some copyright problems.
Okay.
So what we're doing is going to broadcast her hands playing as she, because she's, phenomenal
Sure,
technique.
sure.
So not only will you get to hear it, everybody tries to sit where you can see the pianist's hands, Well, this way it'll be on the screen.
Okay.
We get all that set up. We're working on that now. And so, but either way, it's going to be a terrific show. And she's really an engaging person. She'll talk to the audience some and introduce her numbers.
Well, she's Russian trained. She's going to be all right.
Yeah,
She's going to be all right.
She has her degrees are from Juilliard too. So
Oh,
she
wow.
was trained over there and then came over here to finish up. So, but anyway, we're excited to host her, and I think the local students that take piano lessons they have a free pass to
Sure,
get in, so
yeah.
they can listen to her. And so we're encouraging.
Any member can come in with a
You bet.
ticket.
We've
And
got season tickets or single tickets for that night if available at the door. So.
I'm trying to figure if I've got one for this year
Yes,
or I'd like to
yes.
mine for this year. Okay, I
Right,
didn't. Okay.
right. You're all ready to go.
I'm ready to go. Like I said, I'm looking forward to that, and it's great that we have things here at the Huck Boyd, and I've said this so many times. Fortunate to have the Huck Boyd,
Oh, absolutely.
and
Well, classical music isn't everyone's taste, particularly out here.
these will be songs that were in the movies.
Yeah,
like,
if you've
okay,
seen very
all
many
right.
movies, you're going to recognize,
Recognize.
yeah, I remember
Okay.
that one. Love Story, Immortal Beloved,
Yeah.
just an all-around good show. So, even the Bugs Bunny cartoon where he plays the Hungarian Rhapsody,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
of course he ends up,
Yeah.
you know, all over the
That's
keyboard.
great.
So she'll be playing that too. So we're
So
excited.
that's Saturday night, 7 o'clock, Huck Boyd, and enjoy that.
Yeah,
All right,
for
okay,
sure.
Okay.
It'll be hot. You might as well come out and sit
Come
in the air
out.
conditioning and
The other night, Friday night for the kids thing, that was
Yeah.
that was nice in
Yeah,
there.
it was. It was
a nice
very
way to
pleasant.
spend an evening.
just be amazed at her technique.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't like watching her hands, you can close your eyes and just enjoy the music. The other thing is tonight we still have some seats left if someone is interested in taking our beginning Word class.
Right, at the East Center, in the East
right,
Center,
at
yeah.
the East Center. Microsoft Word. We'll have a booklet of handouts to give, and then it's from 6 to 9, and you'll really get a good basis in using Word. It's the main word processing system that a lot of people use, how to cut and paste and delete. And so it's $10 fee,
Okay.
and just give me a call at the foundation, 540-4110, or email me at pccf.
And to learn all the inside on how to do
Right,
it. You know.
yeah, and the people that have signed up are kind of beginners.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a beginner, you're going to be right at home. So
Bring your own computer, or can you use them in the center?
we have the equipment. All
Yeah,
you have
right.
to do
Okay,
is
just show up.
Show up.
Show up.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
So, and again, it's going to be a hot evening, and if you're kind of always wondered, gee, I'd like to do more than, or if I write a letter on the computer, how do I make it look right? You
Yeah,
know, and that
yeah.
sort of thing. So
To
this
learn
is
how to
what
do
it's
that.
going to do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. And then just briefly, the other night we gave grants, the foundation. That's enjoyable because you see what it does.
It is, and you get to be generous, and
sure.
thanks to the Hanson Foundation
Well,
generosity.
yeah. I need to. It's easier to give away
Yeah,
someone
someone-
else's money. You know, it really is.
But oh golly, the Fort Bissell benefited. There was some.
I just happen to have the worksheet here. I don't know.
Okay.
Have they all been notified? Or
Yes,
Can you mention?
I think.
Who?
Yeah. The Logan community is going to refurbish the basketball courts behind the Catholic Church, and so that's going to be. And there's a lot of community involvement in
Sure,
that one,
yeah,
as
that's-
you
yeah, that's
remember
gonna be
from
big,
their-
yeah.
from their application. The hospital is purchasing a
No,
mammography
that's
machine.
very important.
And we're helping out a little bit with
Sure,
that.
yeah,
where
I mean,
we
that-
could, yeah.
There's
They-
other people helping out with that.
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah, and that's going to make that testing available to women here locally, so that's important.
That opens that up where you don't have to wait for the truck to come through. Right.
Right, and there's evidently that's had its own problems.
Sure.
you know.
Yeah.
And then, as a result of our strategic doing effort, the work group that's focused on beautification in the communities got some funding to buy planters and benches and a few things. So every community in Phillips County will be touched by that one. Again, Fort Bissell got some equipment for their inventory monitoring. The high school is going to have, that was an interesting project. They're
It
going
is,
to be
that's-
teaching the kids how to do concrete and do some basic
Sure.
construction.
Building.
of a building.
A lot of these schools around there build a house. And
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
They'll have a building out there that they can store things
And
in.
then, yeah, turn out to be a storage
That's a
unit
great
amongst the
idea.
kids, yeah. And then Agra's continuing to upgrade their lake facility, and so they're
That's a
getting some money for that. And then the city of Speed has a painting project
Sure.
that's going to benefit
Yeah.
them. So
They want to make that barn.
Yeah,
they're putting up the barn.
the barn quilt
Barn
thing,
quilt.
yeah, will stand out more once the side of the building is painted. So
it's-
that's kind of becoming a Phillips County brand. The barn
Sure it
quilt
is, yeah.
thing. So it's
And-
really cool.
And you look around and say, man, it's really kind of a neat place to
Yeah.
live in this part of the country.
Absolutely.
It really is because of
We
all
don't
the
want to
things
get
that-
the word out too much because we don't want anybody else coming out here.
You know, that Agra Lake is great. I drive by there. I just drive over and see how much water they have in it. I've had picnics over there. It's a great addition here.
I think the original was maybe a WPA project.
It was
wasn't it?
WPA
And then they've
building.
upgraded it, and now
Yeah.
they added
Yeah.
some benches and
And they
now-
made it deeper. They dredged
dredged
it.
it out.
And these and all the planters around town now with the barn,
Yeah.
it's just really neat. And we have, like we mentioned earlier, the foundations that help
Yeah,
do these things
right,
around
absolutely.
here.
Not only the Hanson, but Cole and Morgan
Yeah.
and Brookline and Armstrong, and then of course the Phillips County Foundation
Sure,
kind of
yeah,
helps
yeah.
coordinate a lot of it.
It's
so.
it's amazing, and we could give. We're going to have a fundraiser. We don't know what we're going to do. And then last time we had the great race, and
Right.
last fall a lot of people participated in that, and we could give away what next? 50,000.
Yeah,
We
in
give
the
away
fall.
100,000 a year, two
Right,
50,000 things.
Yeah, we've given the first 50 is going out now, and then in November we'll have the fall round and be able to pay out in December. So
Okay.
it'll
Well,
be
we-
Christmas
okay,
for
well,
some
and,
groups.
and again, there's people say, we can do this and that. Well, if they qualify, do it.
Yeah,
it
yeah,
doesn't just
submit
make file a grant there, and
Right, yeah.
it's a process that goes through, and if they aren't eligible, we find out it's not
Right,
eligible.
yeah.
Hanson
And,
takes care of all that.
Right, and then if if you don't succeed, if you may need to tweak your thing, there's always another
Sure.
6
yeah,
months
yeah,
later
that's-
another
yeah,
opportunity.
Okay,
So-
well,
All
anything
right,
else?
sir. I think that's
Okay, well,
good.
thank you,
Thank you,
Ted.
Morris. Have a good trip.
Yeah, he's director of our Phillips County Community Foundation and doing a great job for the county and what's going on here. All right, we have a couple of late arrivers. Is Eldine out there? Okay. We're doing pretty good this morning. I promised Eldine, I said maybe a little after 10, I'm not too far after 10, to get him on here, and then we'll have Mr. Wells on here, and wanted to get Eldine to see how things are going with the DVD and pickleball. You have really become a pickleball enthusiast. You know that, Eldine? You're really...
Well, I am, and I tell you what, because it's as I shared with you the last time I was here that it is actually one of the sports that crosses the generational lines.
Sure.
And like I'd said before, that we had grandparents who had grandchildren as team partners, and I'm helping. I think what I want to help. I want to say something here. This is title show is about my Phillips County, and I truly appreciate sponsors because I know what it is to work to find sponsors and to do that. But that you allow me to come on, and that your sponsors and so forth allow me to come on, understanding that the work that we do at home on the range may be in Smith County. But it's not parochial, it's really large, it's the state,
Sure.
the nation, and even around the world. And so that's the same thing with this pickleball. You have a court over here now, and I
Yeah.
think you're working, did you ever get a tournament organized?
I don't know whether they
I
have...
talked to her the other day, and
Yeah.
they're working on that. And that's one of the things I would invite them to do is to come down to Kansas City on the 23rd, because this will be the people running that tournament are professional. One's a professional pickleball player. Now that's actually on ESPN.
Really?
Yes,
Yeah,
it is. And so there. But anyway, the other thing before I talk about that, the other thing I wanted to talk about is the DVD. When I was here, I think the last time we were talking about promoting that and doing the debut of the sales.
Sure.
And we accomplished that on last weekend, actually, in that we. The release was in Wichita. Lone Chimney Films sponsored it, and they sponsored it, and the well, I thought I had a sheet for you for questions, but okay, didn't get it. But anyway, out of that, they announced the sales of them. And we probably had close to 200 people that attended.
Wow, okay.
But it was also something now that we can announce is that Lone Chimney Films, who produced that movie and did the other Kansas films regarding the Civil War. This was their last film, Home on the Range.
So that's it.
So they announced that they were going to shut it down. And I don't know whether Home on the Range is going to have all of their films or not, but we are going to have Home on the Range. They are also a 501c3.
Okay.
And so they have to find another 501c3. They cannot sell it for cash.
Okay,
because
really?
they're closing down their
Sure,
501c3.
okay.
And so anyway, that we're looking. Mark and I are working forward to that. And just like Mark McLean at the bank, he said he kind of dreads to see me come in because he said Eldine's always got another idea and working on stuff. But anyway, that's a whole exciting thing that's going to come about because I have a vision. I taught a 7th grade class on Home on the Range, and it was during Kansas history in Smith Center, and it's just a natural because that Kansas battled the Civil War, and at the end of the Civil War, Kansas grew faster than any other state in the Union has ever grown.
Really?
Yes, and it brought the railroad, and that
Right,
ties me
sure,
into that.
right.
Brought the railroad, who brought the cattle drives in,
Right, yeah.
and so cowboys came. Now I get to talk about Home on the Range
Yeah,
because the
right,
Cowboys
sure.
came. But anyway, it was a success down there, and then we moved to got up early in the morning in Wichita and drove back to home and out to the cabin, and we had an event out there we publicized as having principals autograph your
Sure.
DVD, and so we had different principals there, and we probably had 50 visitors. We didn't have an event per se of anything,
Yeah.
but we had 50 visitors, and I think between the two, we sold with some advanced sales. We've sold 200 of the DVDs. We sold about 135 in Wichita, and then we sold about 65 up here. And this is the other thing I announced. I just completed the plans for here locally in Phillipsburg. You will be able to buy one or more at either the chamber office
Okay.
or at Scott McCoppin Bookstore.
Okay, all right.
And
yeah,
so they're
sure.
available here, and then I'm always available at with our brochure, and they
Sure.
can find me on the internet. But it's an essential part of Kansas, and the song became the state song, and it just ties Kansas into the whole nation. And like with the Civil War, we saved the Union. Kansas saved the Union. If it had gone slave,
Right.
the
Well,
Union
it was a
would
free
not have
state. It was
survived.
free territory.
the Union would not have survived, and the rebels would have owned the Midwest.
And of course, Quantrill is a big part of that.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
It's
he
good
was a part of that, too.
Good thing
Quantrill.
we got him out of there.
Yeah,
you
we
know?
got him out of there. But be careful with that one. Don't be careful. Be careful with painting too broad a brush. I don't want to go there because it sounds like a wildcat thing. But that's part of our story, which we won't talk about here today. But that's part of the story. In that, we've heard the phrase "war is hell." Well, it is hell for the soldier and the battlefield, but it's really tougher on the civilians.
Sure it is.
And so Quantrill raiding at Lawrence, but you see, nobody ever hears what happened before that. The Kansas Jayhawkers had went in
Right.
and killed slaveholders.
Yeah,
and released
yeah,
their
right,
slaves.
yeah,
So,
in
so it was
Missouri.
a guerrilla warfare, just
Yeah,
not
sure it was, yeah.
not unlike
Yeah,
we do
no,
now.
yeah.
But anyway, then that the sales are we have they have them for sale now, and we're then the other thing we want to talk about was this pickleball tournament. That's going to be the 23rd, hosted by Mitch and Tammy, and it's held at the Chicken and Pickle, which is actually a sports bar.
Okay.
And I have
yes.
no idea how many courts, but I talked to them night before last, and we have 30 teams signed up down there.
30. Wow.
30
yeah.
teams, and these teams have paid $60 each to be there. We're also going to have spectator tickets that if you don't want to play and you
sure.
want to come down and learn, you can, for $15, you can be a spectator, and then what you get free hors d'oeuvres. But understand, this is a sports bar, so you have free hors d'oeuvres, but a cash bar if you want something to drink.
Right, right.
So I was on some other places and talked to some other people about this, and I said you can almost guarantee that the hors d'oeuvre will be something salty.
Yeah,
That'll
right.
make you
Oh,
thirsty.
yeah, that would take-
But anyway, $60 and 15 a spectator, and then there's 3 levels: beginner, intermediate, and expert. They will be rated as they sign up for it, and then they may be evaluated later on in the number that sign up. But first, they'll do a round robin. Way back, people now do it today when they go to a basketball camp, or they
Sure.
go to MAYB basketball. You'll have a pool. You'll play pool. You'll be in a pool.
Sure, right.
And
Pool play.
then you're guaranteed so many games. Well, then out of that pool, the top 1 or 2 go play the tournament. Then
Tournament
they play,
bracket kind of thing.
then they have a tournament after pool play. And that's exactly the way pickleball works.
Okay, all right.
But anyway, it's a social sport. It's kind of interesting because that say, well, I'm too old or whatever, but sometimes the age and the ability overcomes the youth exuberance, and they hit it too hard and hit it out of bounds. So
Sure.
you can still score. But anyway, we're doing that on the 23rd, and we'd like to have everybody come down to Kansas City. It's on our webpage, and so that
Where is the Chicken and Pickle? Where's it located?
it's in North Kansas City, and it's on 1761 Burlington Street, North Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay.
And I even drove by it and found it by myself. I was down there earlier. I was down there earlier this spring, and I wanted to go north from downtown Kansas City, and I forget now the streets, but the street to get up to 435 that loops around to the east.
Right.
I wanted to get up so I could get up to I-70, and I mean to 29 and then to 36.
Yeah,
But anyway.
right,
Drove right into it. I mean, went right by Chicken and Pickle and then got to that. So it's easy to get to. So anyway, from 435, the loop around or going downtown, that's easy to find. And we want to encourage people to come out and to enjoy it. And then we also you see, one of the things, Tad, I talked to you about, and you appreciate it, is that whenever we have a personal, whether it's a church, whether it's a school, whether it's a historical site, whatever it is, they can never become static. I mean, if they're not a dynamic, if they're not a dynamic, they will not survive. And so I always tell visitors, they say, well, like I've been the cabin. Well, come back in 2 years. There'll be something different. And so this is the continuation then that on site, we're going to probably be letting bids later this year for an amphitheater. And that's
amazing. Now, which way will that be from the cabin?
That'll be across the West Beaver Creek south.
Okay.
For anyone that was there in 2014, when we did the rededication, it's going to be in the area where the Buffalo Soldiers had their encampment.
Yeah, right.
And it's a natural amphitheater, and we'll probably have it, make it 40 by 60 or 40 by 80 with one end closed for the artists. And then if it ever have a big event, there's a natural slope that goes up the hill so that we could fill the amphitheater and still have people could still see if they sat outside. So it's an exciting thing to come
You
by.
can have concerts there.
We're going to have concerts, and people can have family reunions.
Yeah. Wow.
They could have there's people already having weddings out there, and they could have a wedding reception if they wanted to go full country. And then they want to go full country. We're also with our expanded site. They're going to have a place they can ride their horses. They can go, and they can ride up and down the creek.
Wow.
And so that's the other thing. We're developing this site.
Sure.
So we have the nature walks and these.
And you mentioned the fact about Smith County. It's not just it's this area.
It's the whole area, and I'm working, and so Smith Center is also, but I'm working with the Phillipsburg Chamber and their CVB and as Smith Center is. We're actually working clear along US 36.
Yeah.
Have somebody been ever in and talked to you about that or not?
But I know she'll be in there.
Well, we're working on it, and we're trying to. Every time I come over, I stop in and visit them, and then they're going to market DVDs also.
Yeah.
But this is an exciting thing that we're going to work together. And there's also the Northwest Kansas historical part, and then I heard you talk a little bit earlier about one of the greatest assets we have here is the Hanson Foundation.
Yeah.
And then they also have a program. There's a program that was a webinar to tell where the other projects are.
Sure, yeah.
And so this is the next thing we have to do. You have talked about, we have pollinator plots, we're going to have monarch butterfly plots, we're going to have all of these different
sure.
things. So we're going to have environment, we're going to have soil conservation, and historical things out there that are all different. And so we have all kinds of different places. So our next step, after when we get into the overall plan, is to find out what's available for us. And I'm new at this, and so I'm just learning something all the time. And it is an exciting time, Ted. And we always talk about you and I and our age, but it's an exciting time when you and I can still learn,
Sure,
and work on something and convince people of what's going on. But anyway, that then going back to Kansas City, there's one more thing, that if anybody goes to Kansas City this weekend or any time this summer, I'll put a personal plug. My youngest not my youngest, but the son of my youngest son, Lyle's boy Adam, performs at the Worlds of Fun in the Moulin Rouge Theater.
Oh, really? Okay, I've been there, done that.
And he performs 5 shows a day.
He does.
This is his 4th year of doing that.
Yeah.
And so he, I'm prejudiced, but he's pretty good.
Sure.
And so are the others. And he just graduated from University of Missouri KC, and he'll work there this fall also, and then eventually teach.
Sure.
Vocal. But anyway, but there's something to do down there. Royals aren't in town this weekend, but Worlds of Fun and
Took my kids and grandkids there. I've been there for a while because we don't have a reason, but I was used to taking the Moulin Rouge. They had all these different shows, all the theaters. That was always
a great mix of shows. But Kansas City's still a fun town.
Yeah.
And but anyway, we want to invite everybody to come down for that and buy a DVD, and also come out and visit the cabin. So anyway, that. We thank you for your time. We thank your sponsors.
Sure.
Because
it's great
without them, we don't go. And also the producer, director. What other hats does she wear? But
do you know Gary Musselman?
Yeah.
He has his retirement party. As soon as this program's over, I'm going to Topeka.
Going down to that. Okay.
Going down to that this afternoon.
I met him not so much through his Activities Association, but I don't know what he still does, but he lived in Silver Lake.
Yeah, he does. I think
he still live there.
Yeah.
I met him when Mitch and Tammy lived there, and and their kids were in the Silver Lake High School. Met him there.
He's retiring. Yeah. He's having a big reception. Yeah. Jack Dressler used to be AD here. I'm going to see him.
Well, I really don't like him very well for one reason. He didn't buy my idea. I wanted to propose that it went over like a lead balloon, but I'm going to try again. I'm trying to get the High School Activities Association to play and sing Home on the Range before the national anthem at the major ball games. Yeah. This is done in Texas and lots of other states. So I'm still working on that one.
They have a new director coming in.
They have a new director. I'll try him now. But I don't think Gary could be bothered with that. You tell him I remember that.
I will.
You tell him you run into Eldine and he's still wanting to
do that.
Get Home on the Range played before the high school ball game. So anyway, well, thank you, Ted.
Thank you. Yes, sir, Eldine.
Always a pleasure to come in. And we'll probably in July.
Yeah, we'll come
set
again.
up that program on Alzheimer's and dementia. Then
I want to do that too.
And it's an orientation of what KU is doing down
there,
and what I'm doing,
and what you're doing.
All right.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Eldine. Yeah, we'll see you. All right. I think is Wes out there? All right. I think he's our final one this morning, and then we're going to bug out. And I hope there aren't any highway patrolmen. Well, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go there. I'll drive the speed limit to get there. I see Wes every once a week at night with the autobiography thing, and I'll have to tell, after Wes talks about what they're going to be doing there in the park, I want to talk a little bit about our meeting that we had last night. Okay, what's happening in Encore Living? What are they doing?
Well, the Encore Living Committee is trying to get out the word about what we do, different projects and programs that we have. So we thought we would just have a get-together in the park, and we're going to do that on Saturday, June 23rd, from probably about 6 to 9 or so.
Sure.
We'll be over by the the gazebo area or something over
Where
there.
the swimming pool used to be in that area. Down the hill from there.
Yeah, someplace around that area. We're going to try to do that there. We are going to provide some pulled pork sandwiches and hot dogs. I'm not sure what we're doing about drinks and other things like that, but we'll have that part there. So.
So the person doesn't have to bring any potluck thing, just show up, or you're
you can
requesting?
bring some things if you want something other than pulled pork and hot dogs.
Salad or
But there's nothing required.
sure.
I mean,
Okay, just show up. It's the family. It's for the whole
it's
family,
for the
right?
whole family. It's for everybody in Phillips County is invited.
Any charge?
No charge for it.
Wow. Okay, so
We're just trying to get people there to talk to us about what we do and see, if there's some things,
kind of an orientation thing, kind of let them
Yeah.
know what everything you're involved in. You know.
just to see what we do and see if there's anything that they might want to participate in, stuff like that.
Yeah. Well,
So,
that's the week from this Saturday,
a week
yeah.
from Saturday on June 23rd.
6 to 9, and going out and we have a nice park out there, and they've got plenty of shade and all that, and so it's a good thing. Okay, and again, no charge. Take the family and go enjoy not only the food but the fellowship with everybody.
Right.
Okay, but Wes started this autobiography, and we meet once a week at night. We met last night, and we're working on. And I like the way you do it. You kind of help us figure out what to do, because this morning at 3 o'clock,
Yeah.
woke up at 3 o'clock this morning. I laid there for about an hour and a half thinking about how I'm going to write for the home. We have homework to do. We have to write a couple of pages of something that I thought, well, how am I going to do this and this and that? So it's really a good opportunity to pass along what you've done in your life to the family. No big, you don't have to be any fancy writing like Steinbeck or anything. You just do it in your words, more or less, and make it interesting.
Just trying to help remember what happened in our past, and so that we can get it down in such a way that we can pass it along to others.
Yeah.
So that our kids and grandkids and other generations on down the line can know what it was like when we were alive.
Yeah, and it's a great, and there's a lot of tips there on how to remember. I think the one last night was good. You do something and something comes off of that, and something comes off. You could go, I could have gone all night on doing things like that, because something triggers something else, and
yeah, that's one of the problems that we've talked about too, is that sometimes we can remember too many different things.
Yeah.
So then you have to start sorting through and deciding which ones that you want to really focus on.
And I thought what you brought up, the fact that what you might not think is interesting would really be of interest to someone else. I think a lot of people think, well, I didn't do anything, but they really have,
Right.
to get where they are.
Yeah, everybody has had lots of experiences throughout their lives, and to them it might not seem that important, but for somebody else looking at it, it might be just that little thing that sparks some other ideas or something.
Good class. You kept me from sleeping, this morning, but
Well, we are.
I'm getting ready to put it down on paper now. I've got it all figured out what I'm going to do.
Yeah, we don't want you to not sleep.
No, but no, it was just, I woke up, so I just worked on that, and thought of terminology and how you could make things a little more interesting than just say, and you gave examples, there are examples in there, we went west. Well, who went west? When you tell who went west and all that. Anyway, will you come on next week and give us a last minute plug on that too, okay, Wes?
All right.
Okay.
We'll do that.
All right, fine, thank you. Thank you
you.
for coming on, Is there anyone else out there? Is that it? Okay, all right. Roger Jennings is in town, and you may have driven between the football field and the middle school and seen that big, colorful semi parked there, and you've been wondering what that is. Well, I'm sure that's Roger's timing equipment that he has in there. He just came back from Eugene, Oregon. He's on his way to somewhere else, but he on his way through, of course, was an athlete here, Roger, and an outstanding distance man. And he's going to be on our show. Maybe John might even stop by, his stepson, and John Mason. And Roger will be coming in to talk about, as I mentioned, he was just in Eugene, Oregon, the National Track and Field Championships. That's big time. And he's got all this timer. He came up with the timer ideas. We've had him on several times before on the Sports Talk. We're going to have him Saturday morning here at 9 o'clock talking about what he's done since then. But if you're driving east on 36 and 183 there, and you wonder what that, on the south side of the street, wonder what that big semi is doing here with all kinds of drawings on it and so on. That is his timer truck. So, and he's done also state track. So it's going to be an interesting show Saturday morning, 9 o'clock. We'll do it. We won't be at the bakery. We'll just be in here and prepared to do that. So, anyway, I thought we had another good informative show this morning, and I appreciate everyone coming in and the sponsors and Rachel. Do you want to mention anything about tomorrow night, or do you want to just kind of keep it a secret? Keep it a secret? Okay, all right. Watch tomorrow night. Maybe. Okay, it's still a secret. Maybe still enough. Maybe I shouldn't even brought it up. Anyway, thank you, Rachel, for, again, setting things up here so we can do this. So we'll see you Saturday morning. Next Thursday morning, we'll be back right here again with another Tadpoll. And again, thanks to the sponsors.